Today, I've been spending some time here on what's happening in our schools, and you as a parent, I know you've got to feel like you are just burned out, but you can't be. We have got to stop what is happening in our schools, or we lose our country and our children. You know, I said to you recently that I am not going to pay for my kids' education unless they go to some place like Hillsdale. I won't do it. There's too much, even some of these church, including my church, I will not send my kids to that school. Won't, because they have been hijacked, and they are now teaching my children the exact opposite of what I've spent 18 years trying to instill in them. And I'm not going to pay somebody to undo all of that. I am not anti-education by any stretch of the imagination. But I would rather not have my kids think in a box, and a box created by a bunch of socialists and radicals. But this is now happening at the lowest levels, kindergarten. And tomorrow, I'm going to show you some things that will melt your eyes. I can't even show you all of the things. I have to blur several parts of the show tomorrow of stuff that is being introduced to your children. I can't show you the stuff that they're using in the third grade because I could be arrested for shopping child porn. It's insane, but it's not just the sexual thing, but the sexual thing we're going to hit hard tomorrow. You need to know this is very well organized, very well thought out. It is part of this whole system. This is not a separate attack, and it's very well financed, and we'll show you who's financing, what's going on, who's behind all of it. And there's really a couple of ways to stop it. Every single parent gets involved in every single school and says no. But I don't think that's going to be enough. I think the unions have got to be dismantled. I think the Department of Education, that should be number one priority. The Department of Education should be abolished. Period. You have to have control locally. Now, there's something else that we're going to touch on tomorrow that I want you to understand. It's called SEL, Social Emotional Learning. It has now been adopted in all 50 states for pre-K education. It's been implemented in K through 12 education in around 18 states and counting. But despite the marketing and the name social emotional learning, it is not about kids understanding their feelings. It's a Trojan horse for the latest woke ideology. Think of it as Sunday school for the religion of wokeness. According to the Collaborative for Academic, Social, and Emotional Learning, SEL is the process through which all young people and adults acquire and apply the knowledge, skills, and attitudes to develop healthy identities, manage emotions, and achieve personal and collective goals, feel and show empathy for others, establish and maintain supportive relationships, and make responsible and caring decisions. Well, that sounds nice. Let's read on. SEL advances educational equity and excellence. SEL can help address various forms of inequity and empower young people and adults to co-create thriving schools and contribute to safe, healthy, and just communities. James Lindsay has this rule for interpreting flowery social justice language like this. Replace the word equity with the word socialism. Equity is short for managing affairs to produce equal outcomes, which looks exactly strangely like socialism. If we use that rule, then the first sentence reads, SEL advances educational socialism and excellence. Now, that makes more sense. SEL is being peddled by organizations like Panorama Education, co-founded by Merrick Garland's son, just by the way, and the Collaborative for Academic, Social, and Emotional Learning, funded by Bill and Melinda Gates. By the way, they are lobbying for SEL to be implemented in every school district across the country. SEL is scary enough on its own. But what is really, truly frightening is this is one of the more frightening pieces of Common Core coming into play. Its push to connect SEL to data. Hear me. If you are not reading books by real futurists right now, technology futurists, you have no idea what is coming your way. And you would have to read the most dystopian novels to be able to get your arms around what is happening with data and our kids. Data mining is coming to our schools, and social media has taught us that data collection isn't about tailoring your experience online, is it? They have an algorithm. They're not tailoring it to me or to you. They're tailoring it to them so they can control what you see and what you think. The Data Quality Campaign, funded by Bill and Melinda Gates, is one of the main groups lobbying for more data on our students. Now, what have we heard from Bill Gates during Common Core? That we need this data to be able to put our children onto the track for their career as early as third grade. So just like the Chinese system, oh, you have an aptitude towards that. Here you go. You're going to be that. He says, the website, data work is equity work. Replace it. Data work is socialist work. For years, black students and other students of colors, rural students, non-traditional students, and others have faced inequities in their treatment and opportunities to learn. The first step to addressing these inequities is data. It's not enough to collect education and workforce data. It must be used to inform decision-making that fosters equitable outcomes, socialist outcomes, and life-sustaining careers. Data is about equity. Equity equals socialism, okay? Which means it's all about control by the elites. Just like in social media, the more data somebody has on your student, your kid, the more they'll be able to shape their thoughts and change their behaviors. They can control them. The Data Quality Campaign argues that lots of people really need this data, not just parents and teachers, but policymakers and workforce leaders, they say. State leaders can leverage data to create more effective and equitable education and workforce systems, and that leaders at all levels have a responsibility to ensure that everyone can access data that answers their questions. May I ask you, with all of the data that they have on each of us, do you feel any leader with all the data they have are actually answering your questions? Why would we allow them to do the same thing to our children? What they're doing is they're collecting data on our kids, and they'll give it to whoever needs it to organize them as young as possible. And they'll put them into whatever career and ultimately the life that will be most equitable. And they plan to shape our kids into whatever pieces fit best into their big equitable game, and no one will win except for them. On their website, they say, quote, "We envision a world where data is used to drive systematic change, economic mobility, and student success." That kind of reminds me of Nebuchadnezzar. Let us build bricks, and we'll build a tower to reach the sky. notice that if you really cared about the children, because this is about data mining on children, wouldn't that read, we envision a world where data is used to drive student success, economic mobility, and systematic change? No, they lead with data will drive systematic change, economic mobility, and student success. Students are last. Notice the trend. Notice that students are last with the teachers' unions. This is the CRT playbook. They use kids as a cover for radical change. They know if they get our kids, we're done. It's sneaky. It's cowardly. It's far too predictable. But it's happening, and it's evil. Just like we did for Common Core and CRT, we have to train ourselves to recognize the red flags in SEL language. We have to be clear that we do not want it in our schools, and no one should have access to our children's data. No one except parents. And why are you collecting data on our kids? Here's the thing. We are winning the battle for our children's education, but there is so much ground to cover. And you can't tire out. You have to dedicate yourself. You either pull your kids out of school and homeschool them yourself, and then I think, and get involved at the local school district. You campaign for the end of the Department of Education. You demand a return to local control. We must stop all of this. This week on my Wednesday night special, I'm going to expose the larger plot to brainwash our kids. This is much bigger than SEL, CRT, or CSE. All of these things are huge, but they all fit into one plan. Education activists don't see your children as individuals. They use them in whatever way they see fit to build their socialist future. It's dystopian. And quite honestly, none of us will want our children facing what they are going to face if this isn't stopped. This Wednesday, tomorrow night at 9 p.m. on Blaze TV, Project Groomer, exposing the secret plan to brainwash your kids.